I will open the commissioners for Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. For the sake of our joint meeting.
And we will reopen the council meeting that was recessed a few minutes ago for the joint meeting. So first on our agenda, looks like we have someone. Sharon, you want to come on up, or you want to introduce who we've got to talk about wheel tax?
So this is Pat Connor, from, Indiana LCAP. He's gonna be doing a presentation for everyone on the wheel tax and how that will look for us. And all the cause and effect for that. So I'll give the.
Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome.
I made copies for y'all. I got 12. I miscounted it. So somebody's gonna have to share. I think I counted 13 people up here. So. We can share them. Pass them down. I'll explain everything for you. Like Sharon said, I'm Pat Connor. I am with the Indiana LTAP Center. We're out of Purdue University. And our whole mission and job, well, before I get started, so I'm Pat Connor, Indiana LTAP out of Purdue University. We're kind of like the extension program for civil engineering. So we provide training, resources, research, all kinds of stuff to help our highway departments and street departments around the state, local governments, including elected officials, better manage their highways and street departments safely and effectively. There in front of you coming around, the top page is what we estimated what the wheel tax and excise surtax would generate for Newton County and how it breaks down between the county and then the cities and towns within the county. That second page is what we estimate would be the lane mile distribution for community crossings if you adopt a wheel tax and excise surtax. Thank you. But I'll go through that here in a minute, but I just wanted to as you guys are flipping through there, that's what those are. And then the rest of those pages is a presentation that we give there that I'll just go through to help guide our conversations, but feel free to ask questions throughout my presentation here and ask questions. My goal, I always like to open with this as well, is to inform and to train. We get nothing out of this at the Indiana LTAP, but we're here as a resource to local government to help make better informed decisions. So I know Newton County does not have the wheel tax and excise surtax right now, and there's probably a lot of good reasons why you don't and don't want to adopt it, but I'm here to talk about some of the reasons why maybe you should, but in no way am I trying to lobby. It doesn't bother me one way or another if you adopt it. I just want to give you all the information, especially with this past legislative session, to where they kind of made it a pseudo requirement for counties and cities with population greater than 5,000. And I'll get into that here in a second. But so, yep, like I mentioned, while we're discussing it, so what is the wheel tax and excise surtax? We call it in our office, and it's kind of something, it's actually two different taxes. You got the wheel tax and the excise surtax. I'll get into the differences of those, but instead of saying wheel tax and excise surtax over and over, oftentimes we refer to it as LOHUT, which is an acronym LOHUT, Local Option Highway User Tax. It is additional revenue that is designated for our highway departments to help maintain and the roads and bridges and assets and on the transportation network. It was originally passed in the Indiana legislation as an option for counties to adopt this back in 1980. So it's been around for a few years there. And in 2016, not that long ago, the legislation opened it up to municipalities to also adopt it. So either a municipality can adopt it or a county can adopt it, or they both could adopt it within the county. Some of the recent changes to the law in 2015, mopeds or motor driven cycles were added to the excise surtax side of the equation. As I mentioned in 2016, they allowed municipalities with a population greater than 10,000 to adopt the wheel tax and excise surtax. And then at that time also they doubled the rates for counties to be able to adopt it. So from 1980 up until 2016, It was a maximum of $25 per vehicle on the excise surtax and up to $40 for the wheel tax. And then they doubled that amount. So you can go up to $50 for a vehicle and up to $80 for a semi truck or a heavy trailer on the wheel tax side. And then in 2017, they lowered that population threshold for municipalities down from 10,000 to 5,000. So now any city or town with a population greater than 5,000 has the option to adopt this as well, which does not, looking at some of the Newton County data, I don't think that includes any city or town in Newton County. And then most recently in 2023, they created a permanent registration for trailers less than 3,000 pounds. And those do not pay the wheel tax or the excise surtax anymore. So that is also kind of impacts our discussion here today a little bit. But most recently in 2025, the Community Crossings Matching Grant Program that everybody's familiar with, everybody has participated in, they changed it this year. So before, I'm going to estimate, it's kind of varied throughout the years, but more recently, it's been about $250 million per year in the Community Crossings Matching Grant Program. And that was a program, which I'm sure you're all aware of, but you can apply for a road project or a bridge project through this. Any city, town, or county can apply for it, and almost every city, town, or county has been awarded when they apply, as long as they don't have any outstanding projects and they meet all the, the other requirements going on. So it's been hasn't been that competitive of a program. There's been enough money in that program to allow everybody awarded money that they've asked for. But this most recent year, they changed it so that grant program that you guys are all familiar with, they changed it from whatever revenues generated from that, about $250 million per year. They capped that now to $100 million a year. And then the rest of that money gets distributed. There's for how it impacts here, the rest of that money then goes into the lane mile distribution. And what that means is, so in order to be eligible for that lane mile distribution, it's an automatic distribution if you have the wheel tax and excise surtax. So that's why I say, is it required? No, you can still participate in the matching grant program part of it, that $100 million. If you had the wheel tax and excise surtax, every year you get an automatic distribution based on how many miles of roadway you had in Newton County. So what that means for the matching grant program, it's going to become much more competitive. That they're taking a $250 million program, moving it down to a $100 million program. And so there's going to be a lot of communities then competing for that $100 million program. Yeah, question.
So going back to the matching grant, community crossroads grant, right? Without the new cap and being competitive, are there going to be entitled communities like there are in other grants?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by entitled communities, but let me answer it this way, and then you can, if it's not exactly the way. I'm not sure how NDOT's going to prioritize or score the projects coming in. Knowing that there's a handful, so every county is eligible for the wheel tax and excise surtax. And then every city or town with a population greater than 5,000 is as well. So that leaves out, there's a handful of cities that are less than that 5,000 person threshold, so they're not eligible for the wheel tax and excise surtax. And only a handful of towns. So there's hundreds of towns and a handful of cities that aren't eligible for the wheel tax and excise surtax. So they're left out of the lane mile distribution. So it wouldn't surprise, I haven't heard anything, don't quote me on this, but it wouldn't surprise me if they prioritize the communities that aren't eligible for the lane mile distribution, that can't adopt the wheel tax, give them maybe first priority, when they submit projects. So with the lane mile distribution, it really, if you talk to the counties that have the wheel tax or AIC and those organizations, they'll say financially, if you look at the numbers, this change really benefits county government. But that puts the counties without a wheel tax and a surtax into kind of a predicament on whether or not they want to adopt it or
And
not.
if I missed this, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So on the wheel tax, does it apply to agriculture also?
Yes. And I'll get into that here in a second, but it applies to, you know, your farm tractor trailers, farm trucks, and trailers as well, yes. So hang on to that thought here and I can jump into that. But to be, yeah, so to be eligible for the matching grant program, that everybody's familiar with, you do not need to have the wheel tax and excise surtax, but it will be much more competitive, and how they score those projects when they come in, like I said, is one of those unknown factors that we know yet. To be eligible for the lane mile distribution, you must have the wheel tax and excise surtax.
Is the lane mile distribution amount based on how much the tax amount is, or you just gotta have some tax, so wheel tax?
The lane mile, so based on all your roads in your county, there's a record of that. We have a record of that that's submitted through the asset management plans.
Yep.
And then NDOT also has certified road mileage on that. So that's one of the unknown factors. but-
I didn't ask it right, but
Yeah.
all right, so if we adopt a wheel tax that's $7. Or we adopt one that's $50.
Yeah.
The amount of money we get in the lane mile distribution doesn't change.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
So you could adopt it hypothetically at the minimum rates and you'd be eligible for the full lane mile distribution.
Got it. That's the same question.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So the excise surtax, two different taxes, but they're married together. I have a different slide on that. I say they're married together and not allowed to get divorced. So even in the state statutes, it lays out the wheel tax, it lays out the excise surtax, and it says you must adopt them both together. It'd make my life a lot easier and your life's probably a lot easier if the state statute were to put those into one statute, but they're two different statutes, so two different taxes. The excise surtax, what that is, it's a per plate, per registration fee that you pay on your passenger cars, trucks less than 11,000 pounds, motorcycles, mopeds, and trailers less than 9,000 pounds. The wheel tax is the trucks greater than 11,000 pounds, trailers greater than 9,000 pounds, your semi trucks, semi tractors, buses, recreational vehicles, your tow trucks, basically everything else that doesn't pay the excise surtax. So no vehicle pays both taxes. Want you to pay one or the other, it depends on what category it falls into.
Just know you're covering all the base, cover.
Yep,
You're doing
you're covering all the vehicles there and trailers. How the county could adopt the excise surtax. So this is your passenger vehicles, trucks less than 11,000 pounds, trailers less than 9,000 pounds. You can do it either on a fixed fee. So between a minimum is $7.50 is the minimum on that, or up to $50 maximum. Or the other option for counties is to adopt it based on a percent of the excise surtax. So there's a fee schedule in the state statute that has a table, and it's in there. If you look back in one of the pages in there, there's a fee table in there, so you can adopt it between 2% or up to 20% of that in there.
Which is the simplest and best.
What is it simple? You're asking me, I'm trying not to give my personal opinion. It depends on the county,
That's
right? There's two different, I do get into that a little bit actually, so I've heard two different arguments on it. The fixed fee is, every passenger car, for example, pays say $25 or $50. The argument I hear is every car has the same wear and tear on the roads, so they should be paying the same. The county highway department is servicing each road the same. They're not looking at the value of the vehicles on that road per se. They're doing the same winter maintenance to all the roads. They're doing the same, chip sealing and repaving on all the roads. So every car should, fairly pay the same. The other argument that I hear is the percent side. So is it fair to have the person down the road who's barely getting by on Social Security, who has a 30-year-old vehicle, pay the same as the person who just bought their third G-Wagon?
But the person about the third G-Wagon also pays a huge license fee.
Correct.
every year.
Yeah,
alright?
they do. Again, I'm not advocating one way or the other, but that's the argument. Is it fair to pay that Mercedes the same amount of money as the Buick LeSabre that's 25 years old? So the percent way would kind of compensate for that. So if it's based on percent, they would be, the older, lower value vehicles would be paying less of amounts than the newer, higher value vehicles. So that's kind of the two arguments there. What is-
Dollars in, will it be about the same?
Dollars in, the fixed fee usually brings in more dollars.
So while I'm thinking about it, because I'll probably forget. before you go
Sure.
further. The collection of this is gonna be collected through like the registration.
Yes.
So we don't have to pay somebody, the B and B does that.
Yeah, the B&B takes care of it all. When you register your car, it's added onto the registration fees and for the car.
Our treasurer gets a thing from the B&B deposits every single day, and we hold that money till settlement. And then there's a percentage in how it gets dispersed out into settle, or with settlement to every taxing unit. So there's a percentage in how they break that all down when each taxing unit gets it on Form 22, and that'll tell them how much we've collected in excise, or the lottery goes in there, boat rental, car rent. There's all kinds of stuff that gets collected through the B&B that gets deposited into our account every day.
Well,
And then we balance it out.
I'm not concerned, they're questioning how they determine, or who is actually determining what percentage, somebody have to pay for the vehicle that they own. And that makes common, perfect sense.
So the B&B, so one of the, I would say I put it as a benefit to this tax program, if you will, is that all but 15 cents of it per transaction comes back to the county. So the B&B keeps 15%, not 15%, I'm sorry, 15 cents per registration for their administration.
Yeah, that's right, right. $300 for the G-Wagon or a moped, they take 15 cents, we get the rest.
Yep. So nearly 100% of it comes back to the county. On the wheel tax side, so getting into the heavier trucks, the semi trucks, trailers, RVs, buses and so forth. Those rates can vary between $5 is the minimum, up to $80 is the maximum. And for both the excise surtax and the wheel tax, those rates can vary between vehicle classifications. So you could set your farm trucks and farm tractors and farm, when I say tractors, I don't mean your John Deere's, but your semi tractors and semi trailers at the minimum if you want, and then the other ones at the maximum or anywhere in between there.
So that's $80 per set, basically,
Yeah,
not per axle, not.
yes, that is a good question. I have a slide on that because I get that question all the time. Even though it says wheel tax, it means per registration. It doesn't mean per wheel or per axle.
Everybody else know that too.
Yeah.
Can you mix and match the wheel and excise tax? One's a fixed fee and one's a percent, or you have to
Yes.
pick-
So the wheel tax can only be the fixed fee.
Okay,
So that's the $5 to $80. It has to be a fixed fee in there. And it can vary between the different vehicle weights and classifications. On the surtax, it can be, you can have that, so that could be, obviously it has to be the fixed fee, but on the excise surtax, you could have that as a percent based product as well. Or it could be the fixed fee, and you could, oftentimes what I see counties will put the mopeds at the minimum, and the cars at a different rate, in there, that's more equitable. Good questions. Yep, but that was the next slide, was wheel tax is not a per plated vehicle, it's not a tax, it is a per plated vehicle, it's not a per wheel rate. There's a few exceptions based on state statute. So any vehicle owned by the state, any vehicle owned by the state agency, any vehicle owned by a political subdivision, a school bus, or it says a bus owned and operated by a religious or nonprofit youth organization used to haul persons to religious services or for the benefit of their members is also exempted. Motor vehicle that is funeral equipment is also exempted. So those are the exemptions. So everything else has to have at least a minimum. Well, big question I have, can we exempt our farm vehicles? you could talk, I'm not sure if it, talk to the county attorney or whoever else. My interpretation from what I heard is they have to at least be the minimum. You can't make your own exemptions. You have to at least set them at the minimum. The effective date for this, if this is something that you want to consider and for it to go into effect, January. So vehicle registrations are collected on a calendar year basis. So those start January 1st. In order for it to start January 1st, it has to be adopted and submitted to the state by August 31st or September 1st. In order for it to go into effect January 1st. So that's a key date. And also, if you ever want to resend it and for it to stop to go into effect January, it has to be resended by that same August 31st date as well. Or if you want to make a change to it, increase it or decrease it, in order for it to go into effect January, it has to be done by August 31st. If you don't hit the August 31st deadline, then you'd have to wait to that next calendar year for it to go into effect. So it could be a year and a few months lag time as that collection.
I don't know if I want to know the answer to this, but if I'm in the town of Morocco, they adopt a wheel tax, but I'm also in Newton County and they adopt a wheel tax. So one take precedent over the other, or am I paying both?
You're paying both.
That's why I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And so is it based off my address or is it based off of where the piece of equipment's being stored or?
It's based on, I think, the address where the equipment is, or the vehicle is registered to. However, Morocco is not eligible for the wheel tax. Yeah,
I saw that.
yeah.
When I was reading earlier, I don't think that would be.
Doesn't apply to us.
No, there's no, I mean,
We're not big enough for.
Brook has 939 people, Goodwin 980, Kentland 1641, Morocco 1081, and Mount Air 117. So no one's even close to the 5,000 threshold. So it never would be an issue probably in Newton County. But they're like Fort Wayne in Allen County. The residents of Fort Wayne pay both the municipal wheel tax and the county wheel tax. And there's a couple of municipalities in the state that have done that in both counties and cities and towns. And then if you adopt it after the adoption of the ordinance, you have to send a copy of the ordinance and to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and to the Indiana Department of Revenue. And then, so the B&B collects the fees, they remit the fees and send a report to the county treasurer. Then the county auditor allocates the monies to the cities and towns, and then it gets distributed. So the county wheel tax does get distributed to the cities and towns in the county as well. And that's based on a formula in the state statute that follows, if you're familiar with the local road and street fund that you receive, follow that same distribution formula. So for counties less than 50,000 people like Newton County, it's based 20% on population and 80% based on mileage. So it heavily kind of in this, the counties with less than 50,000 people, it kind of favors the county government in there. If it's more than 50,000 people, like if you look at Lake County, if the Lake County were to adopt a wheel tax, excise surtax, the county government, and when I say county government, I mean, what goes to the county highway department they would only get about 15% of that wheel tax because of all the large cities and towns in Lake County. And based on this formula distribution, it goes more to the cities and towns in there. But for counties less than 50,000 people, it goes more heavily to the county. So if you look on this, on this sheet here, that middle column down there in the bottom section there, it says ALLC allocation. County highway would get about 88% of the wheel tax when excise surtax collected. And then like 2% would go to Brook, 2.3% to Goodwin, about 4% to Kentland, Morocco 3%, and Mount Air 0.4%. So, a lot of it would come back to the county highway. How the funds can be used. It says the county, city, or town may only use the surtax and wheel tax it receives to construct, reconstruct, repair, or maintain the streets, and roads under its jurisdiction. So basically, anything your highway department is allowed to do legally based on statute, the wheel tax and excise surtax will be used in that. The State Board of Accounts actually allows the county to put their wheel tax and excise surtax into their NVH unrestricted fund if they want, so they can use it there to help pay salaries. A lot of counties keep it in their own fund and just use it for construction. So however, whatever best fits, the county and maybe reasons why you want to adopt it. I've heard some counties want to adopt it. And if we're going to adopt this, we wanted to go to the roads, but other counties use it to help offset the NVH 50/50 rules, if you're familiar with that, and some of the restrictions that it has, it can offset that. Especially if you're expecting, and I'm not sure, I didn't look up Newton County and how you guys fund the highway department, but if there's county general going to the highway department, or if their salaries pay, some of the highway staff being paid out of county general. And with county general funds maybe going down with property taxes, this could be a way to help offset that and reset it back to where it's at. And then also help make the county be eligible for that direct distribution automatic every year as well. It also says, just to be thorough here, I'm not sure if this applies to Newton County or not, it says a contribution. It can also be used as a contribution to a multiple county infrastructure authority. I've never heard of that before until I was reviewing the state statutes. But if you want more information on that, it can be used for that as well. In that handouts, there's about 55 counties that have adopted it. It seems like the northeast and south, or northwest and southeast part of the state are the two major areas with a lot of counties that haven't adopted it yet. I have spoken to like Warren County, they're in this area, White County, Marshall County. Well, there's a lot of counties asking about it now because of the lane mile direct distribution. And then also I have some slides in here about how it's, the B&B data. So these estimates that we calculated are based on the 2023 data that we got from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So we put those in there, and then we estimate it based on the minimum amount and the maximum amount. If you're looking at something in between there, I could send you the spreadsheet and you can plug in your own numbers just to see what that revenue would come back. But right now, based on the maximum rates, the county total would be getting just over $1 million, which about 916,000 would be going to the county highway department, and then 123,000 be split up between the cities and towns in Newton County. We talked about the excise surtax and the percent-based method there, and how those values can vary for the older, lower value cars, or more money for the newer higher value cars. And then something else on there, and if you're looking through the handouts, we have an example of a vehicle registration form on there. And on that, I just like to highlight on there, part of what's on there is a state registration fee. And part of that state registration fee back in 2016 or 2017, I can't remember now what year, it might have been 2017. The state legislators basically, for lack of a better word, well, they call it the state transportation improvement fee. It's $15 per registration of your vehicles go into the Community Crossing Expansion Grant Program. So for another way you could look at that is the state did enact a kind of a statewide excise surtax on all vehicles to help fund the Community Crossing Expansion Grant Program. So that's basically what I have on the excise tax and the excise surtax and wheel tax, how that applies out based on House Enrolled Act 1461, which is where they changed up the Community Crossing Expansion Grant Program. So this year, they're estimating $250 million in revenue coming into the Community Crossing Expansion Grant Program. They're gonna award $100 million of that to the matching grant program. And then $14.5 million goes to the railroad tracks credit transfer. And then about $20 million to the tracks program, which is a railroad crossing program. And then the leftover of that is about, they're estimating to be about $115 million this year going into next year's lane mile distribution. So what that looks like next year, fiscal year 2027. The only difference to that next year is that, so next year, they're gonna have about $250 million plus $115 million that was carried over from this year into next year. Again, you got the $100 million matching grant program, $14.5 million for the railroad tracks credit transfer, $20 million for the railroad grade crossings. And then the new part of that is $50 million goes to Indianapolis if they can match that with $50 million of new money in Indianapolis. So that's the one we don't know if they're going to do that or not. I would suspect that they would. But then what that means is that for fiscal year 2027, at the end of fiscal year 2027, which is basically July 1st of 2027. So you got a couple years out. That lane mile distribution is going to be kind of like the big year. They're estimating that to be about $200 million or over $200 million. And what that means to Newton County, if you adopt the wheel tax and excise surtax, that first year, the lane mile distribution could range between 1.5 million to over $2 million in that lane mile direct distribution for Newton County. That is kind of a conservative estimate at that. We estimated that based on every county in Indiana and every city or town with a population greater than 5,000 adopting the wheel tax and excise surtax. So that's like, I'd say the lowest case scenario, but we know that's not going to be the case. So that's why I said those are very conservative values. You're probably looking at around $2 million that first year in that ballpark for that lane mile distribution if you adopt the wheel tax and excise surtax. And then years after that, it goes back down, that lane mile distribution, where the county would probably receive about half that every year. So probably between $750,000 to $1 million every year is what Newton County can expect. Oh, and I have that on that sheet here. This is something we haven't published yet. We're about ready to publish it. But I printed out just the page that has Newton County on there. That's where you see that first year, fiscal year 2027. If that pot of money is $190 million and every county in Indiana adopts in city and town, you're looking at $1.5 million, but we know that's not going to be the case. So it's probably going to be, like I said, probably closer to that $2 million range on that first year. And then for fiscal year 2028, very conservatively speaking, $700 to $1.2 million. And then it kind of ticks up after that based on what they estimate the revenues are going into the Community Crossing Expansion Grant Program. So I would say conservatively speaking, that first year, close to $2 million and then about $1 million every year after that. That's what the Newton County can kind of estimate what they would receive. There's a lot of variables that go into that, depending on how many counties adopt it, how many cities adopt it, and what the actual balance of that fund will be. So there's a couple big unknowns there, but that's kind of our best engineer estimate there.
But for clarification, that to Matt's question, it wouldn't matter what our rate was we adopted, this would be the estimated
Yes,
revenue.
correct. This is estimated, doesn't matter if you set it at the bare minimum amounts or at the maximum amounts. It doesn't change that distribution.
So I guess clarification that the whatever the rate we would adopt would basically only affect what we're gonna get back and for the county, the towns.
Yes, correct. Yep. So just you know, restate your question and answer there. What rates you adopt would only affect what comes back to the county and that revenue for the wheel tax and excise surtax part of it. It does not affect the community crossings part of it.
So I'm gonna jump around with my.
Yep.
So, you know, now when money comes in for local roads and streets, MVH, or let's go with MVH, part of it goes into restricted, right?
Yep,
Okay, so would these monies be additional to the monies that the towns get now?
yes,
They'd be additional.
yeah,
Okay, and then whoever adopts the wheel tax, whether it's the county or on a town level, do they decide whether it goes into restrictive or not?
yeah, so, I mean, the cities and towns can choose, to put their money where they want, and the county could choose to put the money where they want on
But
that.
is it at the time of adoption or is it as the money comes in?
That's a great question. It's probably as the money comes in. I would think,
Well, it would have to go into
I
your
don't
budget,
know.
wherever you've determined in your budget that it goes, I would think.
Yeah, I've read through a lot of the ordinances. I just was doing that for AIC. AIC asked me if, because we have a copy of all the ordinances. And if we could summarize what the rates are for the different counties so that you can compare. So I've been reading through the ordinances. Nowhere in any of the ordinances, I don't think it states where that money's gonna go. So I think that's just a county decision based on where they wanna put that.
I mean, just for general knowledge, because when it goes into restricted fund, it's gonna be used for roads. When it goes in your MVH fund, you can kind of decide, it's kind of almost like a slush fund almost.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys do it, other places. And then last one, you mentioned the Indiana certificate of vehicle registration and the surcharge that was already currently on there.
Yeah.
To pay for the community crossroads grant.
Yeah.
Will that number be reduced?
No,
So they're gonna go down to 100, but they're gonna keep the same amount.
yes,
I was hoping it would offset. I thought
Right.
if we could offset it, we adopt it, everyone's paying the same anyway, but no.
no, unless if they change it legislatively, in the future, which I haven't heard that talked about. I have heard, and there was some amendments, this last legislative session, talking about the stacking of the municipal wheel tax and the county wheel tax. There was an amendment at one point to where they wouldn't have to pay both of them. But then they left it the way it was, so I could see that coming back up. And them on stacking, not that that would affect Newton County, but for the counties that do have cities and towns with a population greater than 5,000, I could see that changing in the future.
To qualify for lane mile distribution fiscal year 2027. Do we need to act and do something by September 1 of this year or September 1 of next year?
First of this year, it needs to be passed.
No, so in order to get the lane mile distribution, I think conservatively speaking, it would be August 31st of 2026.
That we'd have to act by.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that way you're collecting January 1st of 2027. And then that lane mile distribution would be distributed at June 30th or the end of the fiscal year, or at the very beginning of the next fiscal year, June 30th, July, around that time frame. So if you had it in place, then you would be eligible for that. There is discussion, the statute's not clear on, it just says adopted, it doesn't say collected. So there's discussions right now, we're trying to get clarification. You could adopt it up to maybe June 1st, where's that cutoff, and then you'd be eligible for it. But I think conservatively speaking, August 31st of 2026 is when you would need to adopt it in order to get the lane mile distribution. Now, if you wanted to start collecting it January 1st of 2026, then you would need to adopt it this August 31st.
Does that affect our crossroads if we don't have it done by 2026, or is that gonna be not really coming back?
No, it doesn't come into effect until 2027.
So as long as we do something, then we still qualify for the match for the road repairs. But if we only implement the smallest amount, say the 750, then that will give us the approximate return of the 142,000. We would have to do like the lot.
Yes, yeah, so that 142,000 is based on if you adopted
Bare
that
minimum.
$7.50, the minimum rate's $5.07.
So to get that highest return, we would have to do the sliding scale off of the value of the car.
$50. You can't really say for sure. Average.
Yeah, To estimate the percent-based method, it's really difficult. So we haven't really provided that,
So
but
if we chose to do this, we would have to pick the $7.50 all the way up to $50 per vehicle.
somewhere
The
between there.
council decide 7 or 50, this was, but I don't see any way around, so now I'm doing 2%.
Yeah,
And I hate saying that, but it's gonna cost me a lot of money for balancing that.
You're probably okay.
A lot of ways.
So the adoption, if we should so choose would be, it's a council decision, is that correct?
correct. Some of the commonly asked questions on here that I had, if the county has a low HUD in place, does that automatically qualify the municipalities in that county to be eligible for the lane mile distribution? No, just because the county adopts it and a portion of that wheel tax goes to the municipalities. That does not make the municipalities eligible for that. They have to adopt their own wheel tax, which in Newton County, that wouldn't apply. If the municipality adopts low HUD, do they still receive? Yeah, we talked about that one. Would a vehicle pay both the county low HUD? Yes, we talked about that. Would a vehicle pay? And then, yeah, so we talked about all those commonly asked questions in there. So that's about what I had in here, but I'm happy to enter, what other questions you had on road funding or wheel tax, excise surtax. Happy to help out any way I can.
So I think Pat asked a question, or somebody down there, about the making sure we had this adopted by September 1st.
Yeah.
Of
next
this,
year.
of this,
Of next year.
but is there an advantage, disadvantage to have it done by this August 31st? What are we losing out on if we don't have it done in this term
Just that start collecting money January for your own purposes.
for our own purpose?
Yeah,
It's
there's
not
no
gonna-
advantage for the community crossings matching grant program at this time
Until
until
Follow.
next August 31st.
But what we would benefit from if we were to do it before September 1st of this year is our collections within the county.
Yes,
It would start January 1.
It would start on January. Right. But it does not affect this coming year's matching grant.
no. Correct.
Questions? Discussion?
Well, Sharon knows how to get a hold of me. If you guys think of anything else, feel free to reach out to me individually or, have Sharon get a hold of me and happy to answer anything else that make.
Can you send that spreadsheet to Tammy or Jared or somebody to get it to us?
Sure.
Play around.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you,
Yep,
Patrick.
my
Very
pleasure.
informative. Appreciate it very much. Sharon, thank you for putting that together. Appreciate it. All decisions. Next on the agenda for the joint meeting is Jim Large. Talk about grant money for that, is that right?
Well, I've been approached, in this year, by our GIS provider, our mapping provider. The Indiana Geographic Information Offices, was created a seed grant opportunity for all the PSAPs to upgrade our NG 911 mapping system to the latest standards. The Indiana Standards, National Emergency Numbering Association standards. We prepared the first time around, it got to where we are today in 2020. We did a grant then, that was a 60-40 matching grant. They found out a lot of the PSAPs didn't want to make the changes as fast, so the Indiana Geographic Information Office created the seed grant. It's now 100% matching or 100% grant on their part. So that we can get caught up to the new standards that are out there for NG 911. There was a new standard that was released 2022, September 2022 by NINA, to what the standard should be. Indiana Geographic Office has also added some additional information that they want to see for the state of Indiana. And they've come to me with a proposal. Ours is a lot significantly less than others because we did spend the money back in 2020 to get us up to where we are today. But this new grant proposal they've given us, and I have for you guys is $7,500. We covered by them totally. It's just got to work through the county. Work with Tammy on that, just so we've done anything else. There's nothing required of the county financially, just the approval to accept the grant.
Is your board on board with this?
I have not got that, we have not been to a meeting on it, but there's never been a problem in the past. Okay.
Verifying.
It will be presented on next week at the board meeting.
I would never have an objection to, well, somebody to use a grant, so.
So
So you don't make it involved.
do we need a motion for each board?
Make a motion for Jim to pursue the grant.
I'll second that. We need two motions, Tammy, one to move forward, do it as a joint. We can do it as one. Motion from Steve, second by Rob to, give 911 the authority to apply for the grant. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. All of this signature of the.
On speak, like 5 minutes for a day out here.
That it, Jim? Jim, are you done?
Yes.
Other matters, Scott McCord, I understand that you would like to talk to us. We are excited to have him.
What?
Just waiting up here in eager anticipation.
Eager anticipation. Well, I'm gonna hit you first with my blood drive. It's for the coroner's office. I expect to see each and every one of you there with your sleeve rolled up.
What the happened?
There's another one. Nice try, Tom.
But it wants my blood. So
I'm here today representing the George A. Memorial Healthcare Center. It's that time of year again. As most of you are aware, maybe the new guys aren't, guys and gals. The county receives a portion of Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement through, yeah, what he said. In order to continue doing that, we need to get some information, and that's one of the forms that is going around. Last year, we needed information just on the commissioners.
Yes, for Medicaid.
For Medicaid. This year, we need information on Commissioner Council, because the county owns the facility, the county gets 50% of the reimbursement. You are technically the owners. So in order for that, Medicare requires certain information to be given out. I know that last time this came around, it was questioned, and I've got the packet here, if anybody wants to see it. If anybody wants to read 72 pages of government information.
Well, I do need it now.
That's what it would be good for. I tried reading the first couple pages and it's.
Why do they need all their social security numbers? Yeah, that's what she.
They're going to do a background check on everyone. That's exactly what it's for. It's a background check to make sure that.
Legal participants with no criminal background or fraud. This is what is called the 855 revalidation. And it is something that cycles every so many years. In years past, more specific information was not required. As the rules and regulations have changed, now more information, specific information is required in order to complete the revalidation form and submit it to the federal government. Medicaid was not quite as strict. We could NA or omit. In talking with everyone that is involved, that this is being done nationally, it's not just our facility here in Newton County. It is a requirement for that information to be provided. It is confidential. It will not be shared in any way, shape, or form, except with the federal government on the form that is required to be submitted. The deadline for it goes to Medicaid, CMS. Excuse me, Medicare. It's Centers for Medicare Services, CMS.
So when we turn in these forms, who are we turning them into?
Those are turned into Georgia Aid Healthcare because we, as the operator, have to submit that information on a specific form.
Well, if we own the building stuff, why can't our facility or one of us, so that not all of these guys' social security numbers are out there?
They're not gonna be up there, they're
They're
gonna
be in your guys'
we
hands.
have to have that information on our premises and in our records. Because we will be the one that if someone comes back asking questions or needs to monitor, audit, or further review, they will come to us. Because we are the doing business as, we are the provider, you are the licensee,
What's the deadline?
July 31st. And it has to be in
I
hand by
think we
July
did, we
31st.
talked about this months ago, or even last year, to set
Last
for
year.
meeting.
It was last year, thank you.
This is not, this was something that just in the last 60 days, 90 days has come about. The information is, I mean, you're providing no more information than you do when you do a credit credit card.
I understand, and I know Medicare already has all their social security numbers, wait, it is.
Yeah.
I think her concern is, who's the Georgia Aid who goes through the file and can't go, oh, Commissioner Eiler's social security number is this, let's do a credit check on him, right, that's her concern. I trust you.
That's my,
But there's real
getting-
concerns.
These will be under lock and key in the safe in the business office.
So when I've had to be on other boards and had to do this, and it was a federal background, I personally had to go somewhere and pay money, and then they bring in that for this.
The background check will be done randomly or selectively. This is not this will not be done on everybody on every form. What they are needing to do is, once this bulk of information is submitted, basically it gets thrown into an algorithm and they're gonna pick every 71st person with the letter C in their name and do a check. It doesn't mean that anyone's gonna be checked, but the bottom line is if we don't submit this information on a timely basis, we have no more Medicare, which means it affects our Medicaid, which in fact takes care of the IGTPL. And basically, we have no revenue source for Georgia
Yeah, but
Aid.
if you've got 60 or 90 days, why are we getting it 2 weeks before it's due?
Because we thought this was a simple gathering of information that will submit the form and have it one done with.
We had a problem with the last year, social security number request.
Well,
And I'm gonna need to read.
and you guys have to do,
Yeah. I can guarantee you that every facility in
I'm not happy about
the
it.
United States is,
But it's
it
not-
is very same
No.
situation.
I mean, if we cannot let.
That's all right.
Otherwise, it's close to what we do.
Okay.
Without Medicaid, Medicare, you might as well just lock the doors and kick all.
That's correct. If
I'm
they're,
not happy about it, but I don't see another option. That's the price we all pay for being here. I mean, don't have the sheriff take these down and lock it and save himself, so nobody else has, I don't know.
the other.
You don't have to fill those forms
Yeah,
out.
the form is
The
not
form
filled
is
out.
online.
We
It's-
need- we
I
need-
just printed those off for
We
what
basically
the
need like
information you need.
4 different things, your date of birth, your social security number and your full
Social
name.
security number goes even all across. We'll take your PIN number instead.
I mean, in reality,
I trust you.
I'm
just making the argument.
right, I mean, the argument is that it's going to be out there, but whenever we fill out an application for a credit card, each and every person up here that's elected, which is all of us,
That's our.
has put that in, but the state has it. State has that information.
So this doesn't have to be completed on this form, it can,
No, I gave you that, that's
The
page
full-
65 or 66 in
The
that.
form
packet.
that you are seeing is what we have to submit to the federal government, to CMS, in order to fulfill the revalidation requirements.
so they could individually, each person could go online if they chose to.
No, because it is done in a packet form. It will be specifically under our provider number 155719, which is our federal ID number. And I can't recite the NPI number, but anyway, with that, that is done in a packet. Now, the other situation is to do the submission is just a matter of an hour or so, literally. I mean, it's sitting at the computer and it basically it's a fill in the blank situation. We provide that information. That will all be in, depending on, I guess, how you folks would deem to do it. Once that is done, it will be printed because we do need a paper, even though it'll be done computerized, we do need a paper trail, physical paper trail. That paper trail, as far as we're concerned, could be locked in the safe at the county courthouse or whatever. We won't have any of that information on premise. However, we would have it available to you upon request to say, we have an audit or review coming up next date. Can we have that file?
Tammy, this,
Yes.
state courthouse, and if the state audits you, or.
We would just request it to have to be able to show or prove or provide that information. Yes, I mean,
Going back to you saying credit cards, I mean, I get an email every day that I don't care if it's John Deere Financial or my bank, or there's been a security breach somewhere.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're not really thrilled about this, but it's not your fault.
Well, and the unfortunate part of it is, I mean, there's the black web of, I mean, everybody sitting in this office within 10 minutes could have all of their information exposed anywhere because, and I mean, that's sort of drastic or dramatic, but it is true. This will be kept in full confidence. You have to understand, we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of residents, and we have all of their social security numbers, all of their Medicare and Medicaid numbers, all of their pension numbers and everything else. And knock on wood, to this day, I've been there 26 years, and we have never had a loss or breach or exposure of any of that information. This is kept very seriously. I mean, it's business. And it's unfortunately a part of what the federal and state government require of us.
I think I'll argue.
Far-fetched, unrealistic,
Problem is,
so.
it's crazy that we have to do this,
Put yourself on the hook for something.
but I don't see another option to it unless you just want to go Georgia, and that's gonna be.
That's what would end up happening.
It
Because
seems to me that it should be something from the counties. We are only the administrators of the county, but not as individuals. We are not the owners as individuals. The county is.
No,
Well,
but
We are
in
employees.
And I'm not anything other than the administrator, but my social security number, my name, my number, all of our staff member, everyone that is required, I mean, our board of directors has to provide the same information because they are the board of directors, even though they have no direct ownership or direct money in the game, whatever you want to say. I do as the administrator. I have to provide all that information. Because they're drawing it back to individuals. The legal participants, it's a fraud question. Because in healthcare, it's very common for ownership to change literally on a rotating basis for a healthcare facility. In a corporate standpoint and so on and so forth. Many times those people are getting in there, I mean, watch CSI or whatever, you're talking people that are laundering money, and you're talking millions, if not billions of dollars in healthcare monies. And what happens is you get people that are principals that want to remain anonymous now have to be exposed. And then they look and they go, well, if that provider has 3 people that have fraudulently billed Medicare and Medicaid or been involved in some other scheme, that facility doesn't deserve to have a license or participate because unless they make changes in their operation, they can't. They have people that are criminals participating in their business. And so that's where they're looking at. It's a very broad stroke, but again, all the facilities throughout the United States that are participating in Medicare are required to do this on or before the 31st.
So if you don't have all 10 of them by the end of the month. If you don't have that submitted list.
We will submit with what we have. And then it goes either or. Either they will request additional information or they'll say you have not completed the form in its entirety and thank you, reapply. And I was the one that physically in 2013 applied for Medicare for our building. Here's a little bit of a background so you understand this. We applied for and are now a Medicare provider for many, many years. That came about because Medicaid, if you were a Medicaid recipient, resident, went to the hospital, were hospitalized and then came back, you were not going to be covered under Medicaid. If you had Medicare, you had to be covered under Medicare. Medicaid would not pay for your return until basically you timed out. So Medicare, then Part A, Part B, covers that returning resident. So we have Medicaid, we have Medicare. If we had only Medicaid and we had any resident going to the hospital or needing or requiring certain services that are covered under Medicare, we would have to dismiss, discharge, send that resident away with the quite a large possibility of never seeing that resident come back to us because we did not have the service to cover it. So if you want to say we've been playing the game for years and years and years, because every time you turn around, the federal government says, well, now you have to have this. If you don't do that, if you don't do this, you have to have this. And it's like, it's like a bobblehead. You're just,
I think you just went to talk about putting a wheel tax on, if we don't want them, because the state's gonna take away our funds, if we don't.
Right.
it's a catch-22. There's just no avoidance of what goes on.
So why can't this be filled out instead of first name, Newton County government, and use our taxpayer ID number? Cause it gives that option.
It does.
That is not something in regards, the principals that I've talked with have not mentioned that option.
That's how I would print it, and if they don't like it, they'll ask for it to be resubmitted.
So there is a Newton County.
You have a taxpayer ID.
tax.
Yeah, there is technically.
So, but Newton County is the owner. If Newton County tax, and if that's an issue, then we will. Okay.
The question posed is from what I'm understanding though, in talking with other submitters of this, if there are physical people involved, they are requesting that physical information from the individuals, not only the.
Ain't that option?
We can,
Let's try that then. If not, I'll agree to it.
Yeah, do you need it back?
No, I printed that off for you guys. I was gonna print copies for everybody, but I don't have that much paper.
What do I do?
Do it that way, just put our. Not social security number, but send this and then just list our 10 names. With that, with the county tax ID number and county information, then just list the 10 people, and then if they request the rest of that information, then we discuss that then. At least they have 10 names. Try it, maybe.
I understand everybody's objection to this. But it's not saying we won't do it, we're just not really happy about it.
no, and understandably, and I can check with a couple of principals later on today and have an answer as to whether or not that is preferable, acceptable, agreeable, whatever. I mean, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just here,
You gotta see our.
Oh, no, but I'm saying, I'm in the same boat. All my information is on there too. I mean, I have to, as the administrator, as the
Well, that
healthcare.
makes more sense to me than, needing a councilman or commissioners.
Well, in our board of directors though, because they asked.
Well, I think you already have mine. Yeah,
So,
I think I filled out for a year ago, so I didn't need to worry about it, but. Thank you for that. Yeah, as board of director, I get that.
Yeah.
But I see her point of view. She's not on board of directors. Why should?
It's not just my one. It's just
No, I'm agreeing with you.
It's the premise of, like, just even going through this. The questions don't pertain to an individual, it pertains to our school as a whole. Agree.
but there are questions where they will ask, are there principals involved, as in, who is the county or board of directors or whatever entity, who are the 3, 2, 5, 7 people on that, and we need to know those people, that information, or that's what the form.
I understand that, but it's still the county is the owner, and I understand what you're saying, but. And we are collecting money as a county. in this program. So, I mean, I see that to a point, but all of our personal information is kept within the county.
Correct.
So they need that.
They go to pay and get it.
That's the way it seems to me. But I've been wrong at times.
Yeah, I like the idea of using the tax ID number.
It's a tax ID number, but it doesn't apply. And like I said, they've already got like someone working, that's a different situation.
You know, for the most part, you know, if we were to fill this out and give them what they want to, unless you've been living under a rock, your information's out there.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Sure.
It's the principle of it.
And I'm talking in the wrong hands. You know, which is why you always need to monitor your credit scores and your credit reports. And here I'm speaking from, you know, what I've dealt with, what I've seen in my previous work. So that's one of the reasons why I always question this stuff too, but it's gotten to the point that, you know, it don't matter. It does, but it doesn't.
It matters in principle.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, very much.
Well, we will send the application in with the tax ID and see if it gets rejected or accepted.
Why would it reject it if it says either or?
I don't.
I mean, clearly it says or, so we have that option. Am I correct?
We hope.
We hope.
I mean, it says or.
But it's, I mean, they'll send it back, gives another chance to fill out what they want, not just.
Right.
Up Medicare that day. So I'd say that's what we do.
That's probably not really gonna save us a lot anyway, because if somebody gets it and gets this information from getting the tax ID number. And want to do something with it, if they got knowledge of it, you should file a fake tax return. So either way, there's always gonna be an opportunity. Just have to have somebody knowing what they're gonna use it for, but I think that we are safe with tax ID number for Social Security.
So we're good with, you know, see what you can find out.
We will confirm if there's any other question or whatever, yes, but
I'm
we.
not sure to ask, just send this that way, and then if they complain, then we gotta cross that bridge. I mean, don't say, hope this is okay, or here.
I mean, the only. Correct, the only negative part about that is if they would just say, well, you're done. Like to reapply.
That would be my. So.
What do we do if there's a gap?
I mean, the county has funds that could be used to sustain George aid for a period of time until such time as the application was accepted, if we had to reapply.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we have funds.
Well, there should be funds in that, in the George aid account.
The IGT split, IGT UPS split.
That was kind of time consuming. That didn't happen quickly the first time.
No, that was one of those situations,
It was
we
a
were
process.
again making sure.
Yeah.
The verbiage, the correct input, the correct, yeah,
That was a process.
that's
That was a nightmare.
It took a while.
going back and forth. And that was another situation where the county had to take a responsibility that had not, it was not something the county would want us to step into that role of. But in order for that to be facilitated, they had to, or county had to, if I remember correctly.
Is there any way that somebody can get a hold of wherever this comes from and ask for guidance on the usage of?
There are several, the guide, FYI questions and guidances. There are those available. We have those. And at this point, nothing had been found that we are aware of that answers the question that we're now, other than it needs to be there.
And that's why I'm suggesting calling someone. Get a hold of somebody and see, this is what we want to do. Are you okay with that?
It seems to me like by memory, when we originally applied and all that, a lot of the questions revolved around being a facility owned by a government entity and not as an individual or a investment type. So
not a corporation or a group or whatever. I will talk, Brian Chin was the attorney and we still have him as a contact. Brian, for Paul Render. And he is an expert in regards to this, in regards to what's going on. He was with the IGT and so forth. I will reach out to him, very quickly and see what he can tell us in regards to whether, either or. And provide that information.
Yeah, definitely share our concerns with them.
That's all we had. Thank you.
Thank
Scott,
you.
side note, just if you could chime in, do you have any kind of update on Hazelton? Because of your involvement in that?
I haven't been involved in that in a long time. I'm just.
1:30 today. I don't- They followed up with some irrigation projects and the fall festival they're gonna do.
Make progress in that.
When things became stagnant, I just stopped going. It became a waste of time.
Well, I mean, it should be moving along there, so.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tammy? Do we need to, talk about Brian Bolton?
He's still on vacation. My understanding is
From
between
vacation.
him and Susan, July 31st, roughly 8:30 here. To do a joint special meeting,
Joint special meeting, July 31st.
8:30. We will have Susan will have the 5-year program projection for you guys, and then Brian will go over innkeeper's tax, all that stuff.
That's all. Anything else to come before the joint meeting? So, council could close, if someone would like to make.
I'll make a motion, council adjourns.
Second. Motion from Matt, seconded by several, Nick, to adjourn the council meeting. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.
How far the commissioners will recess?
It's